The interview was supposed to be routine. A new head coach celebrating his fresh start with a new team. Easy questions, friendly faces, standard media obligations. But when reporters pressed Kevin Stefanski about Shedeur Sanders, something shifted. His composure cracked. His words started stumbling over each other. And what came out of his mouth sounded like desperate damage control from a man who knows the truth is catching up to him. He claimed he loved coaching Shedeur, said he cared deeply about his development, talked about having zero ill will toward anyone in Cleveland, but anyone watching could see right through it. The nervous energy, the rehearsed phrases, the way he danced around direct questions without actually answering them. Because here's the thing. You can't gaslight an entire league that watched you sabotage a rookie quarterback on national television for an entire season. Stefanski just landed the Atlanta Falcons head coaching job thinking he could escape his past, thinking a new city meant a clean slate, thinking nobody would remember what happened in Cleveland. But the NFL has a long memory, and right now, that memory is turning his dream job into a complete nightmare. Reports are already surfacing that Falcons players want nothing to do with him. Kyle Pitts is allegedly reconsidering his future with the team. Whispers in the locker room are getting louder by the day, and this chaos hasn't even reached the regular season yet. The man hasn't coached a single snap in Atlanta, and his roster is already looking for the exit doors. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is thriving. The same quarterback Stefanski tried to bury is now untouchable. Every obstacle thrown his way only made him stronger. Every attempt to dim his light only made it shine brighter. And now, the entire football world is watching karma deliver exactly what Stefanski deserves. This isn't just about one coach and one quarterback anymore. This is about accountability. This is about what happens when you try to destroy a young player's confidence for your own ego. This is about the league finally seeing through the manipulation and lies that Stefanski thought he could hide behind press conference smiles and corporate talking points. Atlanta thought they were getting a championship-caliber coach. Instead, they're inheriting a walking disaster with a reputation so toxic that players are running before he even calls his first play. And Shedeur, he's sitting back watching it all unfold, knowing that the truth always finds its way to the surface. What happened in Cleveland didn't stay in Cleveland, and what's about to happen in Atlanta is going to prove exactly why. Let's rewind and break down exactly what went down in Cleveland, because this wasn't some behind-closed-doors drama that only insiders knew about. This was blatant sabotage, broadcast on national television for millions of people to witness with their own eyes. From the moment Shedeur arrived in Cleveland, something felt off. Stefanski shuffled him up and down the depth chart like he was playing mind games. One week Shedeur would start. The next week he'd be watching from the sidelines with no explanation. The play calling when he was on the field seemed designed to make him fail rather than showcase his abilities. And it wasn't subtle. Analysts on ESPN were talking about it. Sports radio couldn't stop debating it. Social media exploded every single game day with fans calling out what they were seeing. The New York Post ran stories about it. ABC News covered it. NBC picked it up. This wasn't some small market controversy that flew under the radar. Everybody and their mama saw Kevin Stefanski sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. The plays called during crucial moments made zero sense. Third and short situations where Shedeur would get pulled for no reason. Drives where he'd lead the team down the field only to get benched before reaching the end zone. Perfect throws that went unacknowledged. Smart decisions that got zero credit. Leadership moments that were completely ignored by the coaching staff. Meanwhile, if any other quarterback made those same plays, they'd be trending on every platform. They'd be getting praised as the next big thing. They'd be featured on highlight reels and talked about as future superstars. But Shedeur, he got silence. He got shuffled. He got treated like he was invisible despite performing at an elite level. The manipulation was so obvious that former players started speaking out. Commentators who usually stay neutral couldn't help but call it what it was. People across the league began questioning Stefanski's integrity and wondering what his real motivation was. Was it ego? Was it jealousy of the attention Shedeur brought? Was it some personal issue with the Sanders family name? Nobody knows for certain, but what everybody knows is that the treatment was deliberate, calculated, and completely unfair. And through all of it, Shedeur kept his composure. He didn't complain publicly. He didn't throw tantrums. He didn't call out his coach on social media. He just kept showing up and performing, proving that no amount of manipulation could stop real talent from shining through. The ink on Stefanski's Atlanta contract barely had time to dry before the problems started surfacing. And what's happening inside that Falcons locker room right now is absolutely wild. Players are panicking, not quietly either. We're talking full-blown concern spreading through the roster like wildfire, because these guys watched what happened in Cleveland. They saw how Stefanski treated a rookie who did everything right, and now they're wondering if they're about to become the next victims of his ego-driven coaching style. Kyle Pitts is reportedly already thinking twice about his future with the team. Let that sink in for a second. One of the most talented young tight ends in the entire league is considering walking away before Stefanski even runs his first practice. That's not normal. That's not how new coaching hires are supposed to go. Players should be excited. They should be optimistic. They should be ready to buy into a new system and compete for championships. Instead, they're looking for escape routes. And Pitts isn't alone. Whispers are spreading through the building that other big names are eyeing exits too. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Guys are asking questions. They're talking to agents. They're reaching out to contacts on other teams trying to figure out their options. All because Stefanski's reputation walked through those doors before he did. The NFL is a tight circle. Players talk to each other constantly. They share stories. They warn each other about coaches and organizations to avoid. And right now, Stefanski's name is coming up in all the wrong conversations. These Atlanta players remember watching Shedeur get destroyed on national television. They remember the unfair benchings. They remember the questionable play calls. They remember a young quarterback being set up to fail by his own head coach. And they're smart enough to realize that if Stefanski did it once, he can do it again. Nobody wants to be the next Shedeur Sanders situation. Nobody wants to give their best effort only to have their coach undermine them at every turn. Nobody wants to play for someone who lets personal vendettas affect professional decisions. Atlanta thought they were making a power move by hearing Stefanski. They thought they were getting a proven winner who could turn the franchise around. Instead, they're watching their locker room fracture before the season even begins. And this is only the beginning of their problems. While Stefanski's world is crumbling around him, Shedeur Sanders is living proof that real talent refuses to stay buried, no matter how hard someone tries to hold it down. Think about what this young man accomplished despite everything working against him. He walked into Cleveland as a rookie with the entire sports world watching. He had cameras on him constantly, media scrutinizing every throw, analysts questioning whether he belonged. And on top of all that, his own head coach was actively working to make him look bad. Most players would have folded under that pressure. Most players would have complained. Most players would have demanded trades or gone to social media to air their frustrations. But Shedeur did none of that. He just played football, and he played it at an elite level. The numbers don't lie. Shedeur threw for massive yardage throughout the season. He led clutch drives when games were on the line. He made throws that had veteran quarterbacks nodding in respect. He read defenses like someone who'd been in the league for years, not months. And despite being shuffled around and undermined at every opportunity, he still made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Let that accomplishment sink in for a minute. A first-year quarterback dealing with a coach who reportedly wanted him to fail still performed well enough to earn Pro Bowl recognition. That's not just talent. That's mental toughness on another level. That's proof of an unbreakable mindset. Every game Shedeur played became another piece of evidence against Stefanski. Every touchdown pass exposed the lies. Every smart decision highlighted the absurdity of the benchings. Every milestone reached made it clearer who the real problem was in Cleveland. And the league noticed everything. Teams that passed on Shedeur in the draft started second-guessing themselves. Analysts who doubted him began changing their tune. Fans who bought into negative narratives started seeing the truth with their own eyes. Shedeur didn't need to defend himself with words. His performance spoke louder than any press conference ever could. He turned sabotage into motivation. He transformed obstacles into opportunities. He converted every attempt to hold him back into fuel that pushed him forward. Now his reputation is untouchable. His name carries respect across the league. And meanwhile, the coach who tried to destroy him is drowning in the consequences of his own actions. The contrast is brutal, and it's only getting sharper. Now here's where the story takes an even more interesting turn. Because the fallout from Cleveland isn't just affecting Stefanski and Shedeur. It's creating ripple effects that involve other players who witnessed everything firsthand. David Njoku, the Browns' tight end who shared that locker room with Shedeur, recently took to Instagram to announce he's leaving Cleveland. The timing of that announcement raised eyebrows immediately, and rumors started swirling that Stefanski might be trying to bring him along to Atlanta. But here's the question nobody seems to be asking. Why would Njoku follow the same coach who created all that chaos in the first place? Njoku was there. He saw everything happen up close and personal. He watched a rookie quarterback get manipulated, benched unfairly, and set up to fail by his own head coach. He witnessed the tension. He felt the dysfunction. He experienced what it's like to play in an environment where the coaching staff seems more interested in controlling players than developing them. Players who witness that kind of treatment don't forget it. They carry those memories with them. And when the opportunity comes to reunite with the coach who created that mess, most smart players think twice before signing up. The league is watching how this situation unfolds, because Njoku's decision says everything about what really happened inside that Cleveland building. If he follows Stefanski to Atlanta despite witnessing the sabotage, people will question his judgment. If he refuses and goes somewhere else, it confirms what everyone already suspects about Stefanski's toxic leadership style. Either way, the connection between these moves tells a bigger story about consequences and accountability. Stefanski thought he could build his Atlanta roster by pulling guys from his Cleveland days. He thought loyalty would override everything else. But loyalty only works when trust exists. And trust gets destroyed when players watch their teammates get treated unfairly for no legitimate reason. The Njoku situation is just one example of how Stefanski's past is complicating his present. Free agents are going to ask questions before signing with Atlanta. Players are going to dig into what happened in Cleveland before committing their careers to this coach. The whispers are too loud to ignore now. And every player who was in that Cleveland locker room becomes a potential witness to what really went down. Their decisions moving forward will speak volumes about the truth. You would think that after everything Shedeur accomplished, Cleveland would finally get behind their franchise quarterback. You would think they'd commit fully to the guy who proved himself under impossible circumstances. You would think basic logic would prevail. But this is Cleveland we're talking about, and the dysfunction just keeps getting worse. Instead of supporting Shedeur and building around his obvious talent, reports suggest the Browns are already exploring other quarterback options. They're talking about bringing in Russell Wilson. Malik Willis is being mentioned. Even Mendoza is apparently on their radar. They're acting like they don't have a quarterback who just made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Make it make sense. This is a young man who threw for huge numbers while being sabotaged by his own coach. He led clutch drives under enormous pressure. He proved he belongs in this league multiple times over. And now Cleveland is sitting there second-guessing themselves like they didn't witness greatness developing right in front of their eyes. The organization seems committed to creating unnecessary competition rather than supporting the guy who already earned his spot. They're complicating a situation that was already solved. They're introducing drama when stability is exactly what Shedeur and the team need to build on last season's foundation. And the craziest part, they're doing this after Stefanski left. The coach who created all the problems is gone. This should be the perfect opportunity to reset, commit to Shedeur fully, and move forward without the toxic dynamics that plagued the team last year. Instead, Cleveland media is painting narratives about quarterback battles. They're setting up storylines that pit Shedeur against veterans and draft picks. They're creating division before the season even starts. It's like the organization learned nothing from watching what Stefanski did. They're continuing the same pattern of undermining their young quarterback instead of empowering him. Meanwhile, other teams around the league are watching this circus and shaking their heads. Franchises that would have loved to draft Shedeur are wondering why Cleveland can't see what everyone else sees. Analysts are questioning the decision-making at the highest levels of the organization. Shedeur proved himself beyond any reasonable doubt. He did everything asked of him and more. He overcame sabotage, media criticism, and unfair treatment to emerge as a legitimate star. And still, Cleveland hesitates. The dysfunction runs deeper than just one coach apparently. What happened between Stefanski and Shedeur isn't just a Cleveland story anymore. It's become a cautionary tale that's reshaping conversations across the entire NFL. Players talk, they always have. But in today's league with social media, group chats, and constant connection between athletes, information travels faster than ever. And right now, Stefanski's name is coming up in all the wrong ways when players discuss potential destinations. Free agents are going to think twice before signing with Atlanta. That's not speculation. That's just common sense. When you've watched a coach publicly undermine a talented young player for an entire season, you start wondering if you could be next. You start asking questions. You start consulting with teammates who might have inside information. You start protecting yourself. Draft prospects are going to hesitate too. Young players entering the league have options nowadays. They can influence where they end up to some degree. And when a coach has a reputation for crushing talent instead of developing it, that becomes a major red flag during the evaluation process. Think about the contrast here. Some coaches get known for turning raw prospects into superstars. They attract talent because players know their careers will flourish under that leadership. Stefanski is building the opposite reputation. He's becoming known as the coach who tried to destroy a generational talent for reasons nobody can fully explain. That reputation follows you. It affects recruiting. It impacts team building. It makes everything harder when you're trying to construct a championship roster. And here's what makes this even more significant. The way Stefanski treated Shedeur exposed something ugly about certain coaching mentalities in the NFL. It showed how some coaches let ego override common sense, how personal issues can affect professional decisions, how a young player can do everything right and still face sabotage from the person who should be helping them succeed. The league needed to see that. Players needed that confirmation of what many already suspected happens behind closed doors. Now they have concrete proof. They have a case study they can reference when evaluating coaching staffs and organizational cultures. Stefanski's actions didn't just hurt Shedeur temporarily. They created a permanent stain on his reputation that will follow him for the rest of his career. Every move he makes in Atlanta will be viewed through the lens of what he did in Cleveland. And that scrutiny is completely deserved. What happened between Stefanski and Shedeur isn't just a Cleveland story anymore. It's become a cautionary tale that's reshaping conversations across the entire NFL. Players talk, they always have. But in today's league with social media, group chats, and constant connection between athletes, information travels faster than ever. And right now, Stefanski's name is coming up in all the wrong ways when players discuss potential destinations. Free agents are going to think twice before signing with Atlanta. That's not speculation. That's just common sense. When you've watched a coach publicly undermine a talented young player for an entire season, you start wondering if you could be next. You start asking questions. You start consulting with teammates who might have inside information. You start protecting yourself. Draft prospects are going to hesitate too. Young players entering the league have options nowadays. They can influence where they end up to some degree. And when a coach has a reputation for crushing talent instead of developing it, that becomes a major red flag during the evaluation process. Think about the contrast here. Some coaches get known for turning raw prospects into superstars. They attract talent because players know their careers will flourish under that leadership. Stefanski is building the opposite reputation. He's becoming known as the coach who tried to destroy a generational talent for reasons nobody can fully explain. That reputation follows you. It affects recruiting. It impacts team building. It makes everything harder when you're trying to construct a championship roster. And here's what makes this even more significant. The way Stefanski treated Shedeur exposed something ugly about certain coaching mentalities in the NFL. It showed how some coaches let ego override common sense, how personal issues can affect professional decisions, how a young player can do everything right and still face sabotage from the person who should be helping them succeed. The league needed to see that. Players needed that confirmation of what many already suspected happens behind closed doors. Now they have concrete proof. They have a case study they can reference when evaluating coaching staffs and organizational cultures. Stefanski's actions didn't just hurt Shedeur temporarily. They created a permanent stain on his reputation that will follow him for the rest of his career. Every move he makes in Atlanta will be viewed through the lens of what he did in Cleveland. And that scrutiny is completely deserved. At the end of the day, this story teaches a lesson that extends far beyond football. You cannot hold down genuine talent forever. You cannot sabotage someone's future without it eventually destroying your own. You cannot build success on lies, manipulation, and ego. Kevin Stefanski tried all of that. And now, he's watching his dream job turn into a nightmare, while the quarterback he tried to bury becomes untouchable. Shedeur Sanders didn't need revenge. He didn't need to call anyone out publicly. He didn't need to play the victim. He just needed to keep performing, keep showing up, keep proving that real talent combined with unshakable character always wins eventually. Atlanta is about to learn what Cleveland already discovered. Some mistakes follow you no matter how far you run, and some players rise no matter how hard you push them down. The league is watching, the fans are watching, and Shedeur Sanders is just getting started. Karma always collects, and this debt is far from paid.